Hello everybody, thank you very much for joining me today for another Twilight Zone video in my Twilight Zone ranking series, where I rank every episode of the original Twilight Zone from my least favorite to my favorite. Today I'm going to be talking about number 6, Shadow Play, written by Charles Beaumont and directed by John Brahm. This is a season 2 episode, and as always there will be spoilers. So Shadow Play is my favorite season 2 episode. It's an episode I've always loved from the first time I saw it. I've always thought it was impressive. I love the concept, and Charles Beaumont's script and John Brahm's direction are great. This is a very interesting and impressive episode from beginning to end that has me involved. I think this is one of those episodes that was a bit ahead of its time in the way the episode plays out. It feels pretty modern to me in some ways. The episode does have a creepy element to it in its own way, and I like how it examines dreams in a very interesting way as well. There's also some details early in the episode that become important later on, which is also great. Dennis Weaver gives a solid performance in the lead, and the rest of the cast is fine as well. So this episode starts in a courtroom with our main character, Adam Grant, being found guilty of murder, and he is sentenced to death. Grant's reaction, though, is maybe not what we would expect, as he laughs and says he refuses to die again. This opening scene is very interesting and immediately makes me invested in the episode. So Grant tries to explain to anyone who will listen, including his lawyer and a newspaper man, that this is all a dream that happens over and over again, and if he passes away, they all will, which is a very interesting concept. He also tells a fellow prisoner named Jiggs his story and about how he was executed before, and I have to say this is pretty intense stuff. At this point, the newspaper man Carson pays the lawyer named Richie a visit. He thinks that Grant might be telling the truth about this whole thing. He is starting to believe him. Richie's wife, who is cooking dinner, steak, is annoyed by all this and turns in early, but this detail will be important later on in the episode. So Richie doesn't seem to be buying this, but Carson asks him to reflect on his own life and why everything always seems so perfect, basically, which is also very interesting. So Richie at this point is still not sure, but he goes to the prison to talk with Grant about this whole situation, and Grant said he's had this conversation over and over again with other lawyers. Richie asks Grant if it's a dream, why do you care about passing away? And Grant says because he won't wake up, instead the dream will start over again, which is very scary. Richie still seems perhaps unconvinced about this whole thing, so Grant tells him he has proof. He says he will have something other than steak for dinner, and when Richie goes home, he has a roast instead. So Grant is also talking to the other prisoner Jiggs again and explains how things just don't add up, like why are his trial and execution on the same day? He says that makes no sense, which is a fair point. In the meantime, Richie and the newspaper man Carson are still debating the validity of Grant's story in an attention-filled scene. Richie tries to call for a stay of execution, but he's ultimately too late, and Grant is indeed executed. And then in one of Twilight Zone's great scenes, in my opinion, we go back to the courtroom where we started, and Grant is back on trial for murder again, just like he said he would be, but everyone else's roles have changed, including the former prisoner Jiggs now being the judge. I love this twist. It's one of my all-time favorites. So overall, Shadow Play is a very thought-provoking and moody Twilight Zone episode. The whole episode feels a bit dreamlike, and Dennis Weaver's performance sells the concept and makes it believable. This is also a very fast-paced episode where a lot happens, and this one always stays with me for a while after I watch it. It's such a unique and clever episode of The Twilight Zone. This episode has always left a strong impression on me, and just the thought of this recurring nightmare is so disturbing. So overall, Shadow Play is one of my all-time favorite episodes, my favorite of Season 2, and that's why it comes in at number 6 on the list. As always, feel free to let me know what you thought of this episode, Shadow Play, if you liked it or not. Thank you very much for your continued support, and thanks for watching.